Welcome to part 5 of Julien Pineau, athletic coach, versus Vicky Lee, success coach. Julien is a movement specialist to world-class athletes and featured guest on Barbell Shrugged. Vicky Lee is a success coach to CEOs and Dean's Fellow at Harvard University. Julien's specialty is finding the key log, the one thing that will make or break an athlete. Throughout this 8-video series, Vicky is going to find Julien's key log, the one thing holding him back from unlimited success. In the previous clip, Julien coaches athletes to fight their own nature in order to do a movement in a completely new way, so that they can break through into a higher league. Vicky must get Julien to fight his own Jedi nature, which is to separate himself from humanity, where he can live in a cave, summoning the mystical energies of infinite intelligence. As a hermit, his proclivity is to isolate himself and renounce worldly pursuits in order to devote himself wholeheartedly to his science of movement. His nature is to be more interested in living in the higher realms of the gods and the titans than in the lower realms of men and mortals. But his key log is not in his Jedi nature, where his strengths and supernatural powers lie. His key log is in his Spartan nature, where his weaknesses and vulnerabilities become obvious. How willing is Julien to join the rest of humanity? Watch this clip to find out.
So that would be humanity, right?
Yes.
Where do I fit in? That's a good question. My first instinct would be here, but I guess a bit closer to the edge.
So you're on the edge of humanity.
Yeah, my first instinct would be outside, but I can't be outside. I was still born in it, so somewhere there, I guess.
Okay, and in your lifetime you've managed to travel over here.
Somewhat, mentally anyway.
Okay, and it's... Okay, so there you are. That's where you are. What's your goal?
Help those people.
Okay, in order to help those people, where would your new position have to be?
A little bit more toward the inside, I'm guessing.
Okay, go ahead, draw it. Isn't it easier to, then you have to reach so far if you're there in the middle?
Like I would have to be right here.
Yes or no?
Christ.
You would have
Yes, if I want to help, if I truly want to help humankind, like I said,
well, then
I do.
What's this guy doing here? You're not there. You don't truly want to help them, do you? That one truly wants to help
them. The other one doesn't.
That one doesn't.
I agree.
Okay, so if you truly want to be who you truly are, humanist at heart, you would be willing to be this guy.
Yes, that is very true.
But right now, I'm willing to be this guy.
No, it's not that I'm willing. It's honestly that trip, right?
Yeah.
I don't know even which direction it is. I want to be there because I do want to help. I want to better humankind. That is truly the why. To get there, I need at least a direction to, pointing a certain way, basically. I need a compass.
There are different types of geniuses. Each one has their own creative workshop. Artists have studios, scientists have laboratories, innovators have basements. Julien has his gym, which is not just a place where he works out or trains clients, it is his master's den, where he develops the guiding principles of his science of movement. The creative workshop is where geniuses spend their 10,000 hours practicing their creativity, which Malcolm Gladwell says is the prerequisite to success. Geniuses tend to incubate, like an embryo or a caterpillar inside of a cocoon, and then one day they emerge as a butterfly. Thus, they tend to be late bloomers, but sometimes they stay inside their cocoons too long. Vicky's job is to get Julien to emerge from his cocoon because he is long overdue.
Out of the cave, I know how to take the first 3 steps. Is how do I take the directions of the first 3 steps out of the cave?
Okay, first let's define the cave. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by cave? I know we talked about it earlier, but for the sake of the video, what do you mean by cave?
Well, I think cave is that the master's den where I live, where the addiction to human intelligence is, and something I need to balance out through, being going into the world and balancing myself out a lot better.
Okay, so I'm going to draw a picture. So let's say this is, this immense power called human intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And you have, draw your master's den. It's somewhere very close by. It's right here. Here's your master, it's like right here.
Yeah.
It's small. How big is it?
The cave there is pretty big. It's a decent size.
You have to draw it. Okay, that's pretty big.
I would say it's pretty big.
Okay, name it the master's den.
It's pretty big because that's truly my addiction. If I have one, it's that.
Okay, so this is the cave where you live, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we'll sit down. So explain to me a little bit about this cave, the master's den.
Well, if I have truly an addiction, that would be that, to human intelligence. That's where the fun is for me. It's that where the brain has fun is there, basically. And it's that furthering human intelligence. The best reading for me is not so much like, I love to read about quantum mechanics, not that I understand it or anything. It's because those minds are capable of envisioning things that are not conceivable. Like when they start to talk about black holes, stuff like that, things that we cannot envision correctly because they make no sense in the world we live in. And yet they're about to study it and make further advancements in fields like the Stephen Hawking's, the Leonard Susskind. But even going back to Einstein, like what Einstein did was to change the way we looked at the world. Past E equals mc squared, all that stuff, is the way we looked at the universe was changed forever because of him. So people don't remember, but at the time, the vision of the universe that he offered was so different, was radically different than anybody else. It could have been an alien coming to Earth just to steer us into a different path. I could believe that. I mean, he had such a radical, different view of the universe. Where did that come from? That's what really wakes me up at night. Where is that coming from? That power, that's what I love in humans.
Okay, good. So this incredible consciousness. So
yes.
Here you are in your den. It's the cave where you live. You live in this little cave. And here you can contemplate all the mysteries and truth of the whole universe and of human nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this is you can experiment with your little intelligence. You take a tiny bit of this yellow, a tiny bit of it, which you call a prism, your different way of seeing things, and you apply it to like how people move. But generally, that's probably when you interact with people and do your job is what percentage of your energy as opposed to this?
I'm going to say that to people on camera. Great. 1% maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And 99% here, you are solving the problems of the universe and understanding all these things.
That's
right?
that's what I have fun.
So you live here, infinite intelligence, you take 1% of that and you go out into the world, right? Okay. So that's the cave where you live, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me more.
But what's in it?
Well, no, this is the cave that you live in, right? And when you go out into the world, you have 1%. What was your original question? I need to know the first 3 steps.
The direction of the first 3 steps.
For what?
In order to go into the world, to balance, to get out of the cave and find that balance, that relationship to the world that I need to have.
And why would you want to do that? You seem pretty happy.
Lonely.
Okay, the price of power is loneliness.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Most people have a creative laboratory or a place where they master their arts and they separate from the base, lower vibrations of the rest of the world, and this is called pure energy. And the reason why you wall off is because the purer and the more simple the energy, the more powerful. So what you do is you bask in the purity and the simplicity of this, and the world can't understand this because the world is much lower. So we bask in all of this power. And every once in a while, we need to pay some bills. So we go out, we do 1%, and then we have enough to spend our time and our energy here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds about my life, yeah.
So why would you want to leave it? Because it's working for you.
Well, loneliness is one, and because I can't help humankind from there.
Yeah.
And so it's time to leave the cave.
Okay.
That's why I did the podcast on the Barbell Shrugged, because I knew what was going to happen.
It's called Podcasts from the Jedi's Cave.
Yeah, I knew what was coming. When I did it, yeah. I could feel before it happened. I was like, is that moment where, like the world is different after that. I knew it. I could tell before it happened. I was like, oh, there it is. I knew eventually the movement that moment would come, and I was like, oh, is that now? Okay, cool.
Okay, how do you see yourself influencing the world?
I look at it as, the way I look at it, the difference that I'll make is, for example, I have an athlete that came to me, literally her arm falling off. Like she could not hang on, she could not feel her left hand, right? Like she could not grab a barbell with her left hand. She had no feeling in her hand because of...
Okay, so one by one, the Jedi will influence individual people.
Will influence individual coaches that in turn will influence more people. If I do it one by one, that might be a bit slow. But if I can train the coaches, then I can reach a lot of people. Okay. And if I can create a field where the coaches will go, then I can change the world.
Okay, you're going to do this manually, which makes sense. One by one, you're going to do it manually. It will hit a critical mass, and then it will go to the next level. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's just keep that in mind, that's your strategy for now.
Yeah.
A lone Jedi going into the world, affecting people one by one, and eventually they'll tell each other, and eventually they'll hit a critical mass, and then it will go to the next level. This is the critical mass. This is the next level. And when it goes to the next level, you'll deal with it when it happens.
Yes, basically.
Okay, does that make sense to you?
Actually, it does.
Okay, what do you think about this? 1% waiting for, these are little footsteps. One by one, the Jedi uses 1% of infinite intelligence, and his 1% will one day hit a critical mass, and then he'll deal with it later when it comes.
Basically.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been doing that?
Since you mean since I opened this gym? Because that depends what you mean by that. But I opened the gym about 6 years ago.
You've been doing it for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what do you think about this? Is it gonna work?
Yeah.
Eventually. Okay.
Is there a better way to do it? I'm sure. Okay, so the thing was the first 6 years also is this had to be created. This had to be put in a certain format. I had to harness. The problem is that 1% it looks like this. That's all the energy coming into this in a way. To come out and everything. I had to harness it a certain way. And so the last 6 years, I've shaped the way, in a way, my brain works to produce something like that. So I could put that pure energy into something concrete. Because that had to happen. And that took a while. Now that I have that, I can move forward at a much greater pace. But I needed that time to be able to, my brain works all over the place. And I had to harness it enough to be able to apply it. Right. And that was not necessarily easy, and that took a little bit of time.
Okay. This is also going to take some time, which is fine because you have plenty of time. What I'm saying is, just like what you're saying, if you keep working out, like what you say in your thing, if you keep working out, eventually you'll get stronger, you'll get better. And eventually the natural progression is that it will eventually spread and hit a critical mass. That's a natural progression of things. And you know that if you leave anything up to its natural progression, with time, it will eventually start displaying or demonstrating where it was weak.
Yeah. That's what I do.
So you're going to find out what your weaknesses are over here. Not over there.
Oh yeah, a bit too late, yeah.
Right when you need to be...
Not weak, yeah.
So this will work, but you'll find out your weaknesses late in the game.
That makes sense.
Okay, so now what do you think?
That there has to be a better way to do this so I can see the problem from the get-go. I mean, not from the get-go,
Why
but
don't you just deal with it later?
Because by then, I'm guessing this will have such a size that as this gets bigger, so does the weaknesses, and eventually even the weaknesses. For the last 6 years, that's why I left Brazil, because I need to build something. I need to do something constructive about it. And that's what I've been doing, was building this. You know what I mean? And so that I had to harness this into that. And so now that I've done it, I'm ready to go from there and start going into a larger percentage and grow everything.
Okay, so you don't actually need more than 1% of that energy, but you do need the 99. 1% can go, all you need over here is 1% of that energy. But you have to take this 99% and you have to take this 99% with you as you go, and it can't be towards infinite human intelligence. It has to be towards being a normal human being.
Balancing things, yeah.
It can't be power.
It can't be power-based. Oh.
So you have to give up 99% of enjoying your time and energy and power, and you have to take that same 99. You can keep 1%, but you have to enjoy. You have to take that energy, 99%, and just be a regular, not a god, but a man, just a regular man with an ego, materialistic.
It's a different life, that's for sure.
Okay. So what do you think about this system? This is how it is. If we don't change anything, this is the natural progression. Your only challenge is learning how to take 99% of your energy and not being in the master Zen cave, living in the world. Let's build a house here. It's not the master's den.
That's work already. I mean, this is something... I'm not saying it's the best way, but this is something that works. That so far I've seen. Again, I live there most of the time. I'm starting to come out. This is what I've seen so far that works. Is it the best system? No, because honestly, and that's part of the problem, is I'm by myself. So I did not meet people that either did the same thing or, you know, that are good at being in that part of it and everything. But this fits what I do with training. That has shaped my mind to a degree. Like, you know, one at a time, you get stronger, and it takes time, and you just put in the work and you move forward.
So you're trying to justify... Okay.
To explain why this to me was the, you know, at least one way of doing it.
It makes sense. This is the natural progression of how you're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think? Do you like it?
That's... To me, that has defined success in the activities that I've done to this day. Jiu-jitsu, sports, this, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And so you're just going to continue it, right? And see where it leads.
Unless it stops working or I find a better way.
Okay, so it works for you, right?
I'm never close-minded, but this has worked, yeah.
Okay. What are your questions?
Is there a better way?
So
that I'm not seeing.
There's no such thing as better. There's just different ways of doing it. If you do it this way, which is fine, you'll find out your weaknesses later. None of your learning is going to be here. This is just you practicing your 1%. All your learning as a human being is going to be over here when the shit hits the fan. Because that's when you'll be ready.
That's a bit imbalanced.
But that's natural.
Yeah.
Because that's when you'll be ready to see what's behind the curtain. This is all I know. You've heard your athletes say that a million times. This is all I know, and it works for me.
Yeah.
Until it doesn't.
Yeah, and it's a weakness to think that way.
So you have a similar weakness like we all do.
But that's a blind spot.
Okay, so you have a little blind spot. So now you see your blind spot,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that, listen, when it builds a critical mass and gets really successful, I won't be blind anymore. I'll be able to see everything I haven't seen before.
Yeah, or I'll be far enough to the right that I'm in complete denial to it. But yeah.
So this is when I hit my rock bottom. My success will help me hit my rock bottom, and then I'll be ready to see what I can't see on that side. Because it works. And the only way you can see...
Yeah, but I've seen athletes with a blind spot saying like, look, this is working. And yet I'm in the back saying, no, it's not. It's working for you right now. But a year from now, it's going to destroy you. And you're never going to reach your true potential. So if that's my blind spot, that means I'll never reach my true potential.
That's right.
That's not good.
Right. That's right. Your true potential, that's right. You have to know and be committed to your true potential over here, and you can't get it over. If it's over here,
it's too late.
You have to have it over there. Yeah,
because that's what I do with people, so I know.
Okay.
It's very hard to look at yourself in those cases. I mean, that's why it's a blind spot, and I can tell because that's why I help them. They can't see it.
Now, what do you think?
That I have a blind spot. That doesn't mean I get to see what it's on the other side of it, but I have a blind spot. I've seen that pattern in athletes a million times, so I know I'm doing the same thing.
Remember what you said? You don't even help if her problem was her snatch. You didn't do anything with snatch. All you did was something else.
Yeah.
The 99%.
Exactly.
And then made her 1% fucking kick into gear.
Exactly.
So all you did was train her in the 99%. You didn't touch her Jedi.
Yeah.
And then when you went back to it, the whole thing
was
kicked
there.
in.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same with you.
Yeah, now I feel like the athletes who understands the problem but can't see it.
Okay. You understand the problem, but you can't see it. Here you are. Here's your success if it's this natural progression.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now what? What do you
Now
want?
ask the coach.
Okay.
What is it that I do not see? And how do I fix that?
What is it I do not see, and how do I fix that? Okay. It's the coach's job, because I could tell you still wouldn't understand it, is to get you to see it.
Yes.
And tell me how you would fix it.
Well, first is I have to know how this feels, honestly.
What am I doing? How do I do what I never do?
Yeah. Well, basically what I make them do is, look, I'm going to put you through a set of openers of movement, and one of them is going to show you what the problem is. So those are my rules when I train people. Is the third rule of any exercise is feedback to the athletes. So I need to start going out there, and certain things will show, and I'll go, oh, okay, that's different.
Okay.
So that's where my problem is.
Okay. So you get them to utilize and feel things that they don't utilize and they don't feel.
Until it becomes painfully obvious what is it they cannot do.
Until it becomes
There's always
painfully obvious what they cannot
There's
do.
always one. And that one will show where the real problem is. Always.
Okay. And then that one will show where the real problem is.
So actually as a coach I do very little.
Yeah, so this is similar how I work. I keep going around and around and around it and then you're like, ding! And I was like, oh, now you see it. So we're going around and around and around.
No, I know what I have to do. I have to start to go out there and
Okay, we're getting closer.
experiment.
We're still going in
basically,
circles, but
with
we're
this.
getting closer. Okay, good.